You're listening to Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio. Sponsored by Treebor Soft Mints.
Absolute Radio.
Baby, you're no Betty Maybury, so it could never last.
Well, what about that for a start? That's You're No Vincent Gallo by Found, and I absolutely recommend their new album Factory Craft. It's all started a bit Joe Wiley with the album Where Is My Snowboard? I saw her the other night, actually. She was at she was at the Folk Awards because she switched to Radio 2 now.
Yes.
Or as Radio 1 DJs call it, intensive care.
Yeah. Not because she's got older.
No.
Not why.
No.
That was Frank's way of dropping in that he was at the Folk Awards. But in fact, I did know that already, Frank, because we had a tweet about it. People have been spying on you. I know you don't like that very much.
Well.
It says, I'm off to bed. And this is from Tim. Frank was brilliant in his piece introducing the best live act at the BBC Radio 2 Folk Awards.
Well, I'm liking brilliant.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Generally
good review.
speaking, I shall find a way to make that a negative review when I dwell on it. When I think about offences for radio. Sorry. I've just been drinking out of Matt Berry's cop, who does the voiceovers for Absolute. And ever since it happened, I've started doing this. No good. By the way, you can text us on 81215 if you've got anything to say. Mm-hmm. Not say, but... And our guest is Mark Steele today, so we're all lined up for the show, I think. Yeah. Yes, I was at the Folk Awards. It was a fabulous night.
Was it?
It is. It's actually the people who... I like folk... Obviously, I never get to play folk music on here because they're quite liberal with me, the powers that be at Absolute. But if I started playing... they'd go crazy. Oh, it's all right for Jeff Lloyd to hang stupid plastic flowers from the speakers in this studio as part of his Let's Get Into the Mood. Do you know Jeff Lloyd does that? He dresses the whole studio.
There's ivy falling off the ceiling.
Yeah. And not Tilsley. Was it Ivy Tilsley? I wouldn't mind if she was suspended there in some way. I don't mean the actual actress Ling Perry, who I'm not sure she's still with us. No. But some sort of likeness of Ivy Tilsley would be fine. Anyway, it was very fine. I met. I'll tell you who I met. I went up. I had to do a speech, so I thought I'll do some jokes. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'd already done an impromptu comical remark to the lady I was with. I went with an old friend of mine, and I said to her, do you fancy a smoothie? And she said, oh, yeah. I said, well, there's Charles Dance over there. And I was quite pleased with myself, so, of course, when I went up, I repeated it. And afterwards, we're sitting at the table, who should come over but Charles Dance. Wow. A bit exciting. And he said...
Handsome devil.
Yeah. And he said, hello. He said, I'm Charlie. And I thought, so marvellous. So we've been in email exchange.
Is he a new friend?
Yeah, and he signs... I sent him one that said, Dear Charlie. I thought, I'll go for it. And he's fine with it.
Was he okay with it?
Charlie Dance.
He's probably said to us, I mean, really, how dare the impertinence of the man...
Charlie Dance. I bet Kerry Catona's done a few of those over the years. So, and Donovan was there. Oh, he won that Lifetime. Man, he looks so weird. He looked like, you know, on Star Trek when you get like the ambassador for the planet Varos appears on the scanner. He looked like that. He had like a sort of a plastic tank top on. A really long... And he's got this weird voice.
What's his hair like?
Oh, his hair is very long and very... It looks like a King Charles Spaniel type hair. You know, that kind of hair. And he's got a voice... He's from Glasgow, but I've never quite worked out... And I really like Don. I love his music, but he is a strange bloke. Mark Radcliffe introduced him, and he talked about when he met... in the 70s or something, he met Donovan's manager, and he said to him in the course of the conversation, he said, what time does Donovan go to bed? He said that Donovan doesn't go to bed, he crashes. And he told this and a few others.
Is he a computer?
Yeah, he could be. Well, he's the ambassador from the planet Varos, so maybe he's a droid. Anyway, so and he told some other stories about, you know, things like him getting mixed up with Jason Donovan at some event and all that kind of stuff. And Donovan came up.
15 years, I heard.
Yeah. And Donovan came up and said, thank you for those memories. That was his kind of, really. And then he says, my father used to play me Celtic music when I was a young man, and I thought I would like to. It's really... Is that real? Are you doing the goons? or is that the real thing? But it was it was a lovely night. I had a great... I was having... Yes, as I pointed out, they It's one of the few places, the Folk Awards, where people will point admiringly at Crocs.
Oh.
You know, fashion is complete. It's a different world.
Yeah.
You know Crocs.
No, what, a Croc?
You don't know
Crocs?
Crocs?
Oh my God.
No, what are they?
This is a new type of not being fashionable. It's not. There are people who like Crocs, and then there are people you've never heard of. They're like plastic shoes with holes in.
The really
right.
brightly coloured ones, Gareth.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know what you mean. I didn't know.
Are
what
you
they
wearing
were
the same
called.
cardigan you had on yesterday, by the way?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's acceptable. As long as you
is it?
change the things
Different
underneath.
t-shirt. Different t-shirt.
I find if you change your t-shirt, you can keep the same shirt for a week because the sweat never reaches that particular fabric. It's taken out. It's a sort of a sweat contraception type of approach.
Oh my God.
I met Joanna Trollope, the novelist.
Oh, how was that?
Well, that was strange because I did the speech. Though I say it myself, it went quite well. And she said she came up to me and she said, "Oh, that was very funny indeed." She said, "You can't be funny in writing because you can't do the pauses."
You can sort of have a paragraph change, can't you?
Well, you know, PG Wood.
There are no funny books.
There's no funny writing at all, apparently, according to JT.
No pauses.
This is Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Charmless Man, Blur. Is it acceptable to go no in the 21st century?
I'm a big Blur fan, but that's
I know.
one of my least favourites.
Well, there you go. You say
it's
that
not
about
good.
every Blur track we've ever
Yeah.
played. I don't know, what do you
Play
like?
some
What's
good
your
ones.
favourite Blur track?
No Distance Left to Run.
Okay, there's a little tip
Little-
there for
little Blur
if you want to
factoid
get
there.
into Blur.
Sad one. It's a sad one.
If you want to get into Blur, yes.
We've had an email from Nick in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
An email.
Yeah, yeah. Good morning, Frank, Emily, and Gareth. Emily, you look outstanding this morning. I love your hair.
Oh.
This is the
Betchy
what's
Nick.
it called? The
Thank
radio
you very
cam.
much.
Is it called?
Yeah,
the
the
radio
webcam thing.
Webcam, yeah, something like that.
And-
I always get that.
And Frank with the sports coat, quite dapper.
Yeah.
Well, this is my American
Commenting on
academic look.
I love that Ivy League
I'm going
prof.
to West Brom, West Ham this afternoon. Oh, I've got to go on the pitch at half time. Don't remember me about.
Why are you doing that? Is that because of roast
it's
chicken
gonna be
dinner?
it's going to be a tense relegation battle. Everyone's going to be on the edge of their seat. I'm going to go on at half time and talk about crisps.
Are you going to be dressed as a chicken? Because you always are these
I
days.
will not be dressed as a chicken.
Okay.
I will on the inside. I will. But no, not. But generally speaking,
He's always on a steady course. Talk to Mr. Ed.
I had a feeling then I wanted a chicken-based jingle. That's actually about a horse. But I thought, with the animal kingdom, I think you just stick a pin in and see where you land.
Well, that's Donkey you're thinking of.
Yeah, Mr. Ed. Actually, do you know how they made Mr. Ed speak?
No.
Mr. Ed, in case you don't know, was a talking horse. That was his thing. Partly they used to use a little bit of animation on the mouth, but that's a bit expensive. They used to put peanut butter on the roof of its mouth, and it keep licking, trying to get it off, going crazy. And they'd film that, and then someone would just speak over it.
Did they? Oh, that seems rather cruel.
So yeah, it's a little bit cruel. I don't know if you get away with it nowadays, but anyone, that's this week's phone in. How do you make your horse look as if it's talking? I'm not expecting a big response, but we'll see how it goes. Well,
Never know.
You can text us on 8 12 15 about anything at all. I mean, not something like, the Egypt situation. We don't talk about that kind of stuff.
No.
Someone told me Barack Obama had resigned. I must pay more attention to the world news. I liked him. He's not looking well, though. He died his hair. Yeah, so I'll tell you something else with the...
we're back at the Folk Awards.
Well, the Levellers were on. Do you know the Levellers?
Oh, yeah.
And there was a man on in the Levellers who played the didgeridoo.
Right.
Now, I've never seen the didgeridoo played. Like, he played it pointing it up in the air, like a man playing a trumpet.
Oh, shotgun.
Yeah, so he hired it, right up, and he's, and all that stuff. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because me and Kath, my girlfriend, had been walking through the centre of London the previous weekend, and we'd seen a didgeridoo man, and at the end of his didgeridoo was a pool of saliva on the pavement. He'd obviously been blowing it a long time, and it had steadily... And I I thought the Levellers man, that's all running back into him.
Oh.
You know, he's
You've had
self-based.
insight into the innards of the didgeridoo.
Yeah, he's a self-basting leveller. There aren't many of those about. But I thought, what if I'd slipped on that pool of saliva? It might be one of the great injury lawyers for you phone calls of all time. Yeah, it's a bit of didgeridoo spit. Well, we are real lawyers. That's the man. And you are a face for radio. Oh, is that you, Matt? No, sorry. Oh, what else?
Well, there's been this... Have you been reading about Camilla had this...
Of course not.
Oh, why not? She's one of my favourite royals.
Oh, OK.
She had lunch with Kate Middleton.
That's a good question. Who's my favourite royal?
Who is your favourite royal?
I used to like that, the mad cousin of the Queen Mother who had to be kept locked up so she didn't
Wasn't that all
disgrace
of
the
them?
royal family. No, there was one who was, I think, in the cellar
Princess
at Buckingham
Margaret.
Palace. Yes. I don't know. I suppose it would be Princess Michael of Kent.
Oh, you're a fan of her work, are you?
Yeah, I am. She's the Catholic. She's the rogue Catholic in the team. Anyway, what's Camilla?
Yeah, so they had a sort of pre-bridal lunch.
Who?
Camilla and Kate Middleton.
Do they wear bridles? I'm not surprised. What did they have? Do they have nose bags on?
Did they have peanut butter sandwiches? Because maybe that's made it what look like
They weren't really talking. Vote for Mr. Camilla. Diddle-a-da-da. Yes. I hope
so
we're not
anyway-
doing jokes about the royal family being like horses. Have we come to
Exactly.
I mean, let's talk about Prince Charles's big ears, why don't we? The fact that he talks to plants. Let's sink that low into the comedy mire.
He has got quite big ears.
He has. You never noticed that before.
Do you want to hear about the lunch?
Well, Prince Charles can hear about it from here. Well, now I've done it, you see.
We only have this excerpt. This is Frank Skinner
Absolute.
Radio.
Is that the ice cream van? I'll have, get us a 99. Actually, no, we'll have a 99. You know why I'll have a 99?
Why?
Because this is our 99th radio show.
Is that true?
On Absolute
Really?
Radio. So next week is the big 100.
Oh, what
Not
do we-
counting the podcast, but just the actual live radio shows.
Okay.
It's number 99. What about that?
Wow.
I was about that then. Okay, that's my Jimmy Savile impress. Still working on it.
Frank, you know you rather randomly
Getting ready
talked
for
about
the
Mr.
memorial
Ed.
service. I thought I'd do it at the memorial service. Sorry?
Frank, you know you rather randomly talked about Mr. Ed this morning.
The talking horse?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it's just provoked a flurry of texts with our listeners. They love this subject.
When I said this week's phone-in is How Do You Make Your Horse Look Like It's Talking, I wasn't being actually serious, but such is the nature of
Yeah.
our listeners. They've picked it up and they've run with it.
We've had Alistair from Walton on the Hill. Hi, Frank. I use deep heat to make horses talk, wave their lips like mad. I'm a farrier, so constantly using it.
Farrier?
Yeah. Farrier, he
Oh,
says.
another farrier. Oh, he uses it as he's peeling them at the other end. Oh, God.
No.
That's a bit cruel, deep heat, isn't it? Do you know deep heat, Gareth? You're
Yes,
looking
I do,
confused.
I do.
Yeah, it's...
He doesn't even know Crocs. He's not going to know what deep heat is.
Well, I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. I think one could know what deep heat... He's looking like he does. Anyway, carry on.
Mrs. Tina Taylor says, give us Staffy a toffee. It's very funny and they do enjoy eating them.
Mrs. Tina Taylor said, give us Staffy a toffee.
Yeah.
What's going on? No, that's cruel as well, surely.
Is it?
I think this week at our phone-in is cruelty to animals, the bright side. Oh, that's...
Well, if you think that's cruel, Frank, what about Stephen Southend? On a similar note, my friend used to put hula hoops in the folds around her pug's nose so he could smell it but not see it and would go nuts.
Well, that's all right.
Oh, is that okay?
Yeah, I don't mind that. I
Okay.
think those folds around a pug's nose, they look like they're there to mount something in them.
Must have been big old folds, though.
I wonder if it's the actual nostrils. You could put one in each nostril. I mean, you could save a pug's life like that. It could breathe. It could breathe underwater. If it had to hide in a lake,
But they'd
it
go
could just extend the hula hoops just slightly above the surface, and it could lie there.
They'd go soggy, though. They would go soggy in water.
They would, but I mean, just while the hunt
It'd have
goes
some
past,
time,
we're
yeah.
talking about seconds. I'm not
Yeah.
suggesting it dwells there regularly.
Well, that's suspense.
Yeah, I'm not talking like some sort of amphibian pug.
And we've had a text from a proper horsey text from
Proper horsey text.
don't know 979. When I get to the stables of a morning, I get a huge hello as my horse neighs.
Oh, that was a real... I shuddered to think what was coming there. I've had a huge hello from a horse, and I might tell you.
I get a
I was in
huge
hospital for 2 weeks.
I get a huge hello as my horse neighs at me as I get his brekkie out of the feed room. But as I approach, he twitches his lips impatiently as if he's talking to me.
Oh.
It never fails to make me laugh. I always respond and talk back.
Who's that from?
From
979.
Yeah.
979.
Yeah.
Okay. Do they let them have horses in prison? No, that's a lovely story of its twitching thing. The trouble is, what they don't say is they only feed it once a fortnight.
Yeah.
Hence its excitement when the food comes.
And why it's so twitchy?
No, there must be many. But down to the cruel things. I'm worried about the deep heat from the farrier. Does he
Why?
mean? He doesn't mean deep heat actually from the furnace. He doesn't hold its head over the. Oh no. Because what it's trying to do then is just trying to save its face by holding up the most moist section on its head, making that as wide as it possibly can. That's my theory on the farrier's horse talking experiences. What else?
Talking of horses, what else?
Oh, Camilla, you
Yes.
were talking about. Yeah, I told you, don't do the royal family horse jokes.
Okay.
We're better than that.
So, no, we're not. So they had this lunch, her and Kate Middleton, and it was this pre-wedding kind of bonding lunch, apparently. Well, I loved the sound of it, Frank. It was a very posh restaurant.
Okay.
Camilla had a glass of red wine. It was in the date. No judgment here.
Still in the day.
Red wine in the date.
Yeah, that's all right.
I know. As I said, no judgment. That's what she wants to do.
Yeah.
But apparently, fellow diners. You can tell I got this from a tabloid. This story. Fellow diners overheard snippets of their conversation.
I bet they did.
Yeah. Imagine everyone. So trumpets were mentioned at one point.
Trumpets?
Yes. Trumpets were mentioned at one point.
Yes, they said, but we can't have trumpets. The ceiling is too high.
That's what someone was heard saying.
Okay.
Play them, don't throw them in the air.
Well, this is a good job the didgeridoo player from the Levellers isn't going to be at the royal wedding.
Oh, no, it'd be fine because it's high.
Now, see, he's probably sitting at home not knowing. He's probably thinking, well, shall I, shan't I be invited? And now we've broken his heart in a very unsubtle way, because he'll know that
Yeah.
he's going
He knows now.
He's going to bring a whole load of masonry down with that crazy didgeridoo style of his. At least there'll be no spit under the princess's feet, which that'll be a first. Carry on.
Then one of the best things was Camilla was heard to say, "Can I give you a piece of advice?" But rather tantalisingly, we never heard the end of that sentence, Frank.
Oh.
So we don't know what the advice was.
That's fine. Well, there was a moment between Emily and I when I was...
How dare you?
Yeah, why bring that up now? It was that day she had the black bra and white top. I remember it. I was poor. I didn't know where to look.
No, I was fiddling with a blind.
Gareth!
God, did she get a big... I think you got a big hello that morning.
When he came to the stable.
I was fiddling with a blind and sort of rattling it around, and I did it for a while.
No, you were playing drums with a biro and we were about to go on air. Yeah, sorry, back
I
to
did
you.
it for a while, and Emily said, "Let me give you a piece of advice." And she didn't need to say anything else. I stopped doing what I was doing, and it was probably that. Like, Kate was probably playing with the cutlery or something. And
What do you think she said, though?
Well, I think, why don't the listeners text
Okay.
in? What do you think was the...
good.
I mean...
8:12:15.
Maybe she said, "Let me give you a piece of advice." Oh, sorry, did I say advice? I meant bread. Maybe it's as simple as that. It could be.
Frank on
Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
That's The Colour of the Bear by Mojo Fury.
Oh, it's complicated.
Well, I like it. Colour of the Bear, what a great title. You know, songs are all like love, that crazy laugh, and then somebody brings one out called Colour of the Bear. That, to me, is thinking outside the box. You know what I'm talking about?
Frank, we've had some texts in.
What are you
many
talking
of which I
about,
love.
Willis? See, if you'd had that accent, that would have been a rubbish. What are you talking about, Willis?
Sorry, Willis, I didn't understand what you just said.
Willis, run that by me again.
That would be a great catchphrase.
Sorry, I interrupted
It's
you.
all right, my darling.
Less of it.
Matt from Guildford, you know, we were talking about Camilla and what the advice she might have given Kate.
Yes.
I think the advice from Camilla was telling them how to make their horse talk.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's joining in, though.
He's
I like
joining
that. That
in.
means he's been listening for at least 10 minutes. I appreciate that.
And then-
People, I think the average is 7 before people go to Radio 2. What's
then-
on Radio 2?
Oh, I don't know.
Joe Wiley.
Chris Evans is on that, isn't he?
Not on a Saturday.
Oh, isn't he? Oh,
No,
okay.
I don't think so.
Oh, he gets the day off.
No, I think
He takes the polka dot shirt to the dry cleaners.
I think he's at the trout farm.
we had a text in from Rob. Maybe they were eating jerk chicken, and she said, "Let me give you peas and rice."
Peas and
That's brilliant, Rob.
Oh, that's
Rob, I might
excellent.
marry you on the strength of that text.
Can you do that over the air? They did it on BRMB once. I remember they had a marriage. They had people to write in, and they married them. And I think they got divorced then, not long after. And I think Jeremy Kyle married the lady.
The bride. He married the bride. Well, he married the bride, but you know what I mean.
Well, everybody marries a bride in a while, except for women. Some women do now.
It's true.
Complicated.
We've had a Clark's text. Thanks, Frank.
Everybody help me out, get me Clarks. Everybody help me out, so me get me Clarks. Everybody help me out, so me get me Clarks.
Everybody, how do we know the lyrics to this song?
Frank, let
sorry.
me give you some peas and rice. Do you need to explain what you just did?
No.
That was a song of...
There's a song, there's a reggae
There's a
song.
Clark's
Is it reggae? Yeah, it's reggae, isn't it? Yeah.
What's it called? I can't remember.
I think it's called So Me Get Me Clarks.
Thanks, Frank. I managed to get into Clark's this week.
Congratulations.
I don't find it that tricky to get into
Your
Clarks.
policy's not that bad in there.
Does she mean get into a pair of Clarks that were 4 sizes too small for
Is it a lady or a man?
Since we mentioned it, it's become very exclusive at Clark's.
When I said, is it a lady or a man, you just shook your head.
Just carry-
Man in the paper
Mike-
today.
Mike Shopping in Leeds.
Mike?
Good surname, Mike Shopping.
Mike Shopping, I know him, I think.
Mike
yeah.
Shopping in Leeds. I managed to get into Clark's this week to get some brown brogues. Sadly, they didn't have any I liked. I went next door to M&S discount store. Other discount stores are available, and there were a top range pair of size 12s on the clearance shelf at just $9.99, down from over 60 quid. Thanks, Frank.
I love it.
P.S. Thought you were much better than Jeremy Vine on the Folk Awards.
Well, yeah, but what about Panorama?
Oh.
So, what I liked about that, it was that moment where people do a mistake on the auto cue. When you read it out, you said, but they didn't have any. I liked. It was like a local news auto cue reading moment. Oh, it's the little things in life, isn't it?
This is Frank Skinner
Absolute.
Radio.
Strokes last night. That wasn't a confession, it was the name of that.
I got very nervous then.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, Kathy's away, but
Why bring it
still.
up? That's
That's what I
the thing.
said.
Yeah.
We've had a suggestion of what Camilla was saying to Kate
Yeah?
from Martin in Newmarket. He says, maybe Camilla gave Kate an alpine flower. Let me give you a piece of Edelweiss.
Edelweiss. Yeah, it could
Okay,
be.
that makes me
Yeah.
very happy.
In case you're wondering what that's about, we people heard Camilla say to
Yeah.
Kate Middleton over lunch, "Let me give you a piece of advice."
Glass
but
of red wine.
They didn't catch the rest of it.
Frank,
Something like if William ever says, "Oh, let's go and have a look at the funny students protesting,"
Yeah.
say no.
Yes. If you ever offered
also, don't take the Bentley,
yeah.
maybe.
If you ever offered a Dorian Gray style picture, remember, picture gets ugly, you stay pretty.
Oh, now we're on the anti-Camilla. I can't believe it. We've
No,
done the
but
big
maybe she did
ears. We've done the
say-
horses.
She might have said, don't change your hairstyle in 47 years. Frank, we've
She
had...
might have said, you should get the image rights on those tea towels. Get a piece of the action. Next.
Well, we had a text in from Bruce in Sheffield who says...
Oh, nice to hear from him. To hear from him, nice.
He says, hi Frank, happy 99th show. My friend Dev, who's a big fan of yours, wants to know how you'll celebrate your 100th show next week. Doesn't that sound like we've made that up? We've got the producer to write it to promote our show. Why can't Dev ask himself?
What with the Potter making that up? I just said it's our 99th.
I know, but why can't Dev ask himself?
Look,
Why is he
hold on.
hiding behind Bruce in Sheffield?
Dev DEV.
Yeah.
Well, what about if you find out now that Dev is a mute?
Well, I'll feel momentarily guilty and then I'll move on.
I mean, I don't know why that would stop him texting. But
Bruce,
you know, maybe he's illiterate, Dev. He can't write a text for himself. I hope you feel good about yourself now. You've had a go at poor old Dev. I mean, he's making the most of it in a very difficult world.
How did you know?
We had an email about cycling. says, "Hi Frank, I was just listening to your podcast and heard that you cannot ride a bike. We run a cycling centre in northeast London and have taught hundreds of adults and children to ride. We would be more than happy to teach you should you want to listen with us, and then you can ride your birthday bike." That's nice bit of
lovely.
explanation.
What is more?
Ian Coles.
Can I ask, what is more than happy?
I don't know.
Is it a level of perpetual contentment that seems to rise above the superficiality of a short burst of happiness? Is that what it's saying?
Joy.
Is he saying that you'll get a long-term bars out of this? It's a lovely offer. Anyway, as it turns out, I'm going away. I'm going to the match, and then after that, I'm spending 5 days where over that period I'm having 3 2-hour lessons. And I'm going to. I've bought a helmet. I've done the whole thing.
You bought a helmet.
I was going to.
That's good, you should wear a helmet. It saved my life when I got hit by a car.
Is that right?
You always go on about that story.
Were you on a bicycle or were you just walking?
Yeah, on a bike.
Okay. Yeah. I must admit, we do seriously recommend helmets. It saved my life when I was a human cannonball in the circus. And netting as well. Have netting at the end of your trajectory. That's my advice.
So you've got the bike
Evel Knievel used to have... like a haystack thing he used to...
Did he? Giant haystacks?
Yeah, they couldn't find him after. That's like looking for a Knievel in a haystack.
Very good.
No, I was... 45 quid I paid for a bicycle helmet. 45... I thought... I tied with the idea of thinking, why don't I just really, really gel...
Yeah.
I mean, over-gel my hair.
Yeah.
That would do it, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
So, and then I tried out... You know those ones that look... they look a bit like a loaf, like a sort of French...
I know exactly the ones you mean.
The ones that most people wear. They all hurt me a bit, so I ended up wearing one. He said, these are very cool, these are what the BMXers wear, and I thought, well, I don't want to wear anything cool.
Oh, Gareth.
I'm a man...
Oh, no!
I'm a man who's recently been thinking, can I still get away with jeans at my age? And now suddenly I'm wearing a BMXer helmet. I'll tell you what made me think, can I get away with jeans? I saw the Bewitched had made a comeback, and even they weren't wearing denim anymore.
They moved on from denim.
And they lived on denim, let's face it.
Sorry, Frank. Sue in Croydon, let me offer you a pizza slice. Anyway, as you were.
They were eating pizza, I think, weren't they? They were eating mini pizzas, Camilla and Thing. That's perfect.
Sue in Croydon.
Yeah, perfect.
So...
Mini pizza, so it wasn't a big ask. Yeah.
So the cycling lessons. How many are you having though, Frank?
I'm having 3 2-hours.
Can I be honest with you? I have got a confession to make here. I couldn't ride a bike either, and I lied for quite a while because I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I learnt when I was about 30, so not that long ago.
No.
Stop lying.
It's a penny farthing. Well, that's... I see if I'd lied about it. What about if someone had said, I mean, it happened to me once. I was filming in Northern Ireland, and they said, we thought it'd be good if we have filming of you arriving on a push bike. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I can't ride a bike. And they said, ha ha. And I couldn't.
No, I used to have to just pretend I'd hurt my ankle or I had a tummy ache or something all the time. Or I'd cry and pretend I was upset about something.
That's terrible. I must admit, when I was at school about 14, I used to pretend I had an 11-year-old sister called Trish. Don't know why I did that.
You're listening to Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio, the softest, mintiest show in town. Sponsored by Tree Bar Soft Mints.
Absolute Radio.
Disco 2000 by Pulp. I feel wrong playing that. Let's all meet up in the year 2000. It's like wearing, you know when people wear Christmas socks not at Christmas. You think it's gone now. So anyway, that was that.
Frank, we've had some texts in. We've had one in about some more Camilla potential advice.
Oh yeah, this is in case you just joined us. People overheard Camilla and Kate Middleton at lunch, and Camilla said, "Let me give you a piece of advice," and then they couldn't hear what happened after. We were our listeners are speculating.
Yeah, and we've had Jeff on the M6 who says...
I hope Jeff that pulled over in order to send this text.
So do I.
Do it while he was...
He's called Jeff. He will have pulled over.
Yeah.
He would have done it in a very safe way. Jeff says...
He might be the other bloke in the white van. He might not be the driver.
Oh, that's true.
Okay.
He says, I reckon Camilla handed Kate a small metal bar and said... Let me give you a piece of advice. I like that.
Loving the puns.
Yeah.
We've had an interesting text message. It says, "Hi."
Slightly sinister.
It's a bit sinister.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
It's a bit
It's
sinister.
like the opening of Vincent Price's House of Horror.
It says, "Hi, my name is Rick Bartlett. I'm the cycle instructor who's meeting Frank tomorrow."
Oh, he's listening.
Oh,
And that's all.
that's it.
That's it.
Okay.
Just,
What am I thought it was going to say I'm being held hostage. Can you send £10,000 to the Motorists Liberation Fund? Well, it's good to hear from you. I look forward to meeting you tomorrow at the Bullrush Gates. Don't be there at 3. I'm looking forward to it.
Everyone's going to turn up now.
Well, how many people know where the Bullrush Gates are?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
4,
Frank,
I think, is the answer to
You
that.
were talking about sort of lying or exaggerating in terms of, because I was talking about cycling and how I lied.
wasn't.
Yeah, you were, because you'd
Definitely
said,
wasn't.
Frank, you then said, you admitted that you'd pretended you had was it a sister called
11-year-old
Trish?
sister called Trish, yeah, when I was about 14. I don't know why I did that. I just felt like, because I was the baby in the family and my elders had all married off, I felt like some weirdo only child, and I didn't want to be like that. The terrible thing was, it was like, I'd been at school for a few years and never mentioned this, and I just suddenly brought her up. The terrible thing was, Trish, the reason I said, "Oh, you're my sister, Trish," the reason I said that is because one of my mates, his sister was called Trish, so I just took that name. I just couldn't even come up with an
You
original.
didn't even make up a name for her.
In films where they sign into a hotel and they say a name and they go, "Mr. Hotel," and you think, oh, you'd be able to think of one immediately. When it turns out to it, when it comes to lying, it's not as easy as it.
How
as
long
it
did
might
you
sound.
keep the lie up for?
Oh, I don't know. It was the fact is, people, maybe I wasn't 14, maybe I was about 12. But anyway, people came round my house. I have to say she was out.
Oh,
Then there was
that's
the
terrible.
whole long coma story, and in the end, of course, we had to bid her a fond farewell.
I once lied at school in quite an odd way. It was my birthday, and I'd got a harmonica for my birthday. I was quite young in primary school, and the teacher in the lesson asked me if I could play anything. I brought it in. She said, "Can you play anything?" And I said, "No." And then in assembly...
That was a lie. In fact, you were like a sort of Larry Adler.
No,
thing.
that was the truth.
Oh, that was the truth.
And then in assembly, if it was your birthday, you got to blow out a candle the colour of your class. And the headmaster...
What do you mean?
The colour of your class?
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
I was in the green...
That is disgusting.
Hold on.
I'm glad they got rid of
Hold on.
apartheid. It was a sickening system that dehumanised people.
No, I was in the green class.
Oh, I
the
see.
different classes had colours.
Oh, I see, right. So the green candle came out.
Yeah.
One
and,
candle. Oh, you're spoiling us.
And the headmaster
Cheap
said,
school.
"Oh, what did you get for your birthday?" I said, "Look, this harmonica." And he said, "Oh, can you play anything?" And I looked out over the crowd, and I said, "Yes, I can." And I said, "I can play Happy Birthday."
Could you?
No.
Isn't this how you got that show in Edinburgh?
Yeah. And
You said you could play Happy
yeah.
Birthday.
And so he goes, "Go on then." So. I mean, I don't know what I did. That I don't have any memory of that. But I can just remember when I got back to the
What do you
classroom.
mean you can't remember what you did? That's the whole crux of the anecdote.
No, but I can just remember when I got back to
Did
the
you
class.
play anything?
Yeah, I played something. I had to go at Happy Birthday.
Oh, I feel sick. Frank, can you imagine how awful it was?
And I can just remember getting back to the classroom and the teacher giving me a strange look and saying, "I thought you said you couldn't play anything."
But to be honest, I was at the Chris Eubank, Nigel Benn fight at Old Trafford, and I remember Nigel Kennedy did the national anthem. I think that was a similar experience. Can you play that violin? Yeah, I can, Maestro. Yeah, I'll play the national anthem.
I once told a very pointless lie, Frank. There was our neighbour, and she said we were in Australia, and she went, "Do you grow plants or flowers?" And I said, and I wanted her to like me, and I didn't, as if I'd grow plants or flowers. And I went, "Yes." She went, "What do you grow, dear?" And I went, "Potatoes." Why did I say potatoes? And she went, "Don't lie, that's a lie." I said, "It's not, I do grow potatoes."
Oh, no, she pulled you up on it.
Yes.
That's the worst thing. See, what you could have done, you could have just blowed out the green candle through the harmonica. People would have settled with that. That would have done. I once, because I went to bed slightly later than my nephew, I used to tell him that there was an old Batman serial on telly late at night. And when we met, I used to tell him it was on a Saturday. And when I saw him at school, not my nephew, my cousin, when I saw him on Mondays at school, I used to tell him what had happened, the whole story. I had cliffhangers, and you know, it was the whole thing made up. Ridiculous. Mark Steele is in after this lot.
We only have this extra. This is Frank Skinner.
Absolute
Radio.
That's M5 by the 4. Mark Steele has joined us in the studio. Good morning, Mark.
Hello, Frank.
It's always great to see you. I always think proper comic when you come in. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's a great compliment.
Well, yeah, I think that's
Proper comic, twisted, sick, ego maniac.
I don't think that. I don't think that about comics. I read a quote from you actually, where you said, I wasn't going to bring this up earlier. You have to understand that being a stand-up is basically a mental illness.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, who would have an ego so distorted that he would be impelled to do such a stupid thing?
Yeah.
Do you really believe that?
Oh yeah, comics are quite peculiar people, aren't they?
I think some of the nicest people I've ever met have been
no,
comics.
but the funnest people, I think. But I think, but comic usually are thinking, oh, what's the joke here? Even in the most, I always think if a comic was in a plane crash as it was hurtling towards the ground, you were thinking, oh, I wonder what exactly the right joke would be to tell at the moment.
You know, it's funny you should say that. I was on a plane once. This was just after Three Lions, so I was sort of in my pomp. And I was on with Tom Stoppard, was sitting 2 seats ahead of me, the playwright. I was too frightened to say hello. But there was a moment when, I don't know if we hit something or whatever, there's a horrible bang on the plane. And everyone was, and I said to him after, I bet you were worried about the billing if we went down. And I was thinking, even if we'd have gone down, I'd have had to have got to Tom Stoppard, even if he was praying in the aisle, and got that gag in before we hit the ocean. Anyway, speaking of...
What did he say? Did he go, no, I was thinking, oh my God, my family. And
I think he went,
right.
If I remember right.
Left a long pause.
Yeah, you probably didn't know. The suggestion that I might have been a bigger headline than him probably appalled him. So,
well, you'd have been in. It depends what papers. I mean, the Mirror would have been you, and I dare say the Telegraph would have been more Tom Stoppard.
Well, yeah, maybe. I don't know if I'm prepared to accept that wholeheartedly. It's a theory. Let's put it that way. So you're on the road, Mark.
Yes, it seems so. Yeah. Well, I've done a mad thing, really. Which is that...
if this is going to be criminal, can you not tell us on here?
Yeah. Well, I think it's legal in some countries. Well, I did a radio series called Mark Steele's in Town.
Which you spoke about last time you were on the show, actually.
Oh, right, did I? Right. And so this is a sort of live-ish sort of version of that. So that means that for each town that I go to, I have to try and... sort of write about 20 minutes of stuff within the show about that town. So
you've set yourself a bit of a
task.
It's
nuts, isn't it?
I think most comics, when they go on stage, say if you're playing Aldershot, you'll go on stage and do 4 or 5 jokes about the army or whatever.
Stuff, yeah.
But 20 minutes...
Yeah, well, I have to sort of... some places are easier than others. I was in Colchester last night, and that's got stuff... I read a couple of books about it and stuff, and it's got a brilliant sort of... Well, it's got a great history of sort of Boudicca burning the place down, all this sort of thing, and the Civil War. Humpty Dumpty.
Boudicca, was that the mad bloke in To Kill a Mockingbird?
Yeah, him. Yeah.
When did Boudicca become?
I don't know.
But
she's like I said, she's like a rapper. She's like Boudicca, aka Boudicca. Come to burn down your But
it's like Uranus. That moment when it became Uranus. Yeah, at least we can see some logic to that. People just got
I think
sick
we know
of
where that
smirking.
Maybe Boudicca in some languages is really, really filthily rude.
But it sounds fairly rude in English, if you don't mind me saying. Boudicca. I've never heard the emphasis on the dick.
So there's all that. Humpty Dumpty is from Colchester.
What?
Humpty Dumpty.
He was a real person.
No, Humpty Dumpty was a gun, a royalist gun, and during the Civil War, Cromwell's people shot it down, and so people said, Humpty Dumpty's out on the wall. I'm not going to recite the rhyme because I'm sure you know it, but then it makes sense, except of course for the bit where the king's horses try to put the thing back together again, which horses never been that good at reassembling broken guns. But that's about that. And apparently, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star was written there as well.
In Colchester.
Yeah. So I said, the original. I can't say. I'll have to miss out a word, but I said, the original probably went Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, a squaddist nicked me bloody car. And they quite like that.
Hold on, can you say bloody?
Yeah.
No.
Right, that is
apparently not. So, and also the home of the Z-Donk.
Yeah. God, yes. That's what I was going to say. How do you know that?
I've touched the Z-Donk. I went to Colchester Zoo and it was there, and I actually reached. Have I not talked about this before?
I don't know what that is. Sorry, guys.
God, this is marvellous because I've mentioned the Z-Donk.
Maybe not for the listeners, but for us.
Because I've got. Well, I'll come back to this, but the marvellous thing of Twitter. I'm sure you're familiar with the world of Twitter.
I've heard of it. I don't do it myself.
He won't do it, Mark. He's
right.
Yeah.
Well, here's
I
one
feel
thing
people
where
are inclined to pry.
Yes. Well, on the first show I was doing, so I thought what I'll do is each show that I'm going to do, I'll mention on Twitter that I'm going there. Has anyone got anything interesting to say about it? And the first one was in Huddersfield, and so. A few people said, there was a big Luddite battle. This was the major battle in Huddersfield. The Luddite battle was up there. And I said, I've read a bit about that. And so there was a little bit of that going backwards and forwards on the Twitter. And then someone on Twitter wrote, go on, Mark, you slag them Luddites off as much as you like, mate. It's not like they'll be following you on here, is it? And I thought, that is a good joke.
That is a good joke, yeah.
So I put that on Colchester, and quite a few people said it was the home of the Z-Donk, where a zebra mated with a donkey, the produce being this Z-Donk, which I didn't really believe. And they were all shouting out, it's true, last night. They were really going, it's true. And so I sort of had to go for it. So this Z-Donk thing, the stripes, if you touched them, did they sort of come off in your hand? Was there a lot of felt-tip pen tops nearby and then they started getting quite cross. So where most of the second half ended up being an argument about.
Well, the donkey part of it started getting quite cross.
Yes, yeah.
I touched the Z-Donk. It came up to the fence when I went there. I'm often, for some reason, I attract hybrids. And I was knocked over by a Vox. Anyway, so I couldn't think of a hybrid car there. That's the trouble as you get older. You can't. It's hard to be impromptu. So I reached out and touched it on the. Is it a snout on a Z-Donk? That's a good question. That's this week's phone-in. Yeah, and it snarled, sort of, really quite aggressively.
Well, neither a zebra nor a donkey would snarl.
No, but
yeah,
but once they're forced into the
it doesn't know who it is.
It might have
poor
just
thing.
been
It's probably gone to see the sort of animal shrink every week.
Yeah, but
I just don't know where I fit in.
It definitely exists.
This is Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
One day like this, Elbow, we're with Mark Steele, who is currently on tour, and everywhere Mark plays, he does 20 minutes of material about that specific town.
Yeah, it is a bit mad. I mean, sometimes if you get a book that's got... So, like, I was in Exeter, and I bought this book called A Child's History of Exeter, and there was a bit in it. Straight away I thought, that's handy, because it's apparently Exeter was invaded 3 consecutive years in the 10th century by the Danes, and in the book it said... And on the 3rd year, the people of Exeter said, "Oh, not the Danes again, surely." I thought, there we are. That's fine. There's always something. Also, like in Penzance, people were telling me about the town up the road, St Ives, and they said, it's posh up there. I don't like it there. So I asked the audience, is that right? You think St Ives is posh? And this woman shouted, "Yes, it is posh. They've got their own dentist." So
I think that's posh.
Yeah, that's quite posh. So you're in Newbury tonight, if anyone...
I'm in Newbury tonight, and I'm a bit stuck. This is the point of the tour where I've sort of... it's not an easy one, Newbury.
It's a Newbury block.
Berkshire, yeah. No, I know Vodafone's there, and of course they don't
horse
pay the
racing.
tax. There's horse racing, and I know
That's a cool 20 minutes.
River, yeah. I could just do... What I could do is just reenact the commentary of the 3:30.
On a mobile phone.
There you go, sorted. Phew, that was a close one.
Then what else we got? That's about it. I know there's a river and a canal and a very small museum. That's about me lot, but I'll have to try and think of it. It's funny. I did put on Twitter. There's anybody know anything about Newbury? Is there? I'm from Newbury, and sadly, the first 3 people from Newbury all said there's a bypass, which is. That's not chirpy, is it? That the first thing that everyone thinks of is the way to avoid the town.
Maybe you could write some general, sort of generic bypass material and use that.
And use that for everywhere that's got a bypass.
Exactly. You could do it, couldn't you? Generic stuff. You could do stuff about.
Maybe you could cheat it, but it's sort of.
No, I know you're a purist. I realise that.
Birmingham. I was I was up there the other night, and that was quite a fun one because the audience started shouting things out about.
Oh, they do that up there.
Yeah, but it was about King Kong. Someone said about
oh yeah, King Kong.
Yeah, and I didn't know about this.
What's that?
And I said King Kong, and a couple of people. Yeah, what about King Kong, Mark? And I said, well, King Kong wasn't set in Birmingham, so I start doing a whole thing. I think you've been misinformed. You know, it wasn't. Put me down, you great horrible ape, and all that. And
I have heard that shouted many a time.
That wasn't the excuse.
No.
It wasn't me. It was King Kong, dear. It wasn't climbing up the BT Tower and all that. But then I felt an idiot at the end because I was the one in the wrong. There was a King Kong, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was an enormous fiberglass King Kong that stood in Digbeth. I think it was a car warehouse or something that was called King Kong, and that's why they had this massive thing built. I mean, this was obviously before the recession when people would build a giant fiberglass King Kong. But it's one of those that it kind of. I imagine it was up about a year and a half, and then they sold it. I don't know who bought that.
I think someone took the head off or something, and it's gone missing. So they told me.
I hope it's not still there, just gathering rain. There's a shop in Birmingham. I don't know if it's still there, but it's called Fonz Leathers. That was a great idea, wasn't it, when Happy Days was on? And now maybe not quite.
My
so
favourite shop on all these in Boston, in Lincolnshire, and I was sort of reading about it before I went, and there was lots of people sort of saying, "Oh, well, Boston, Lincolnshire, that's the chav town of the whole of that area, the Lincolnshire area," and people very, very rude. And I'm not big on sort of the word chav anyway, but it was all that sort of thing. And I thought, I'm going to try and defend Boston from that. And I got there, and in the middle of the high street, there's a big electrical goods shop, and it's called It Must Be Stolen. That's the name of it. And there's a picture of a little burglar with a little bag.
Oh, brilliant.
That's brilliant. Car radios with the back all roughly ripped out. Car radios, do they still exist?
This is Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
So I'm with Mark Steele, and he is on the road. And the good thing though about being a stand-up is you get to go to places you wouldn't normally go.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think with this show, on the radio show, I did Orkney, which you wouldn't go there, and that's the thing.
Is there a kind of a tourist thing in Orkney?
Well, there is. The serious thing is that the top half of Scotland is empty, pretty much, as we know, and that's because of all the Highland clearances. So everyone was clear, but they never got to Orkney, so there's still a lot more there. Although there's a sort of town there. It's only tiny. But
still people waiting there for the clearances. Packed, stuffing tea chests.
Behind the clearances. They were the 18th century, originally the 14th. They were ruled by Norwegians. And at one point, the Norwegian that ruled them was called Thorfinn the Skull Splitter.
Right.
And I got a book called Who Was Who in Orkney, and I thought I must look up Thorfinn the Skull Splitter. I swear, honestly, this is exactly what it says. Little is known about Thorfinn the Skull Splitter, but from his name it's believed he may have been violent.
Or just really like to share.
But there's a brilliant place, and they've not got enough... Oh, hang on, I've got a cough coming on here.
Just talk
cough on the radio. What can you do?
You can cough, but don't cough right into the microphone. You'll bring the whole system down.
It might spread to radio too.
I don't like the frog in the throat sound. I don't like the Mark Steele underwater element
Sound
of it.
of a bottle of water.
Oh, now the water bit. He's scrunching the water. He did it. Can I just say, you did it like the world's strongest man. I didn't know you had some strength.
That's glass. That's a glass bottle, and I've just scrunched it.
Brilliant.
Man of Steel. Oh, Mark Steel.
Oh.
Yeah, Steel the bottle splitter, as they call it.
Little is known of in the 24th century. From his radio broadcast, it's believed he may have been 84 stone. In Orkney, this is sort of almost competes with It Must Be Stolen in
They
Boston.
say that about radio, it puts 84 stone on you.
There's not enough people really to justify sort of lots of individual shops that sell in specific things, so they double up. So there was a tiny Kirkward's the capital of Orkney, and it's tiny. There's one little high street that's probably about 200 yards long. And there was a shop there that I've walked past many times over the course of the time I was there, and it was full of prams and baby equipment, a sort of little Orkney mother care thing. And then I'd noticed over the door it said, this premises is licensed to sell intoxicating liquor. I thought, what? And I walked in, and if you go past all the prams, there's a massive off-licence. It's like something out of the 1920s Chicago. Just massive. And just like those shops in Scotland that'll have like 300 different types of whiskey. And I said, are you a pram and whiskey shop? Pram and whiskey, yes. And just marvellous place.
I suppose the theory is anyone who goes to a whiskey shop often enough will need a pram.
Yeah, maybe.
If only to get home. Well, it's
like
fabulous.
Taxi service. So it's full of that. Brilliant. It was such a good atmosphere there. And have you ever played in Orkney?
No, I've never been.
You'd love it.
I mean, how many people roughly live there?
I think about 5,000 live in the capital, and then probably about another 5,000 over the rest of Orkney, which is big, because it can be like it'd take 2 hours to get on a boat or something to
on a
the
pram.
Out on a pram. Yeah. But loads of them came. You'll get sort of 500 people, or 10% of the population will easily come out, and they love it. And I said at the start of the show, this is the easiest place to get a standing ovation. Because regardless of how rubbish the show is, they're just amazed you got there. And
I always worry about that when comics talk about some out of the way places. The thing is, the audience, they're really grateful. I always think, I don't want to be them just to be grateful for me turning up. That's a bad thing.
They've got this when you get there, people will say, instead of saying, oh, did you enjoy the trip or something like that, they'll say, oh, so you made it to the island then, and that's how they greet you, as if there's a reasonable chance you won't have
Some
made
people
it there.
don't.
Yeah.
God, there must be loads of dead comics swilling around.
In the North Sea.
That's what happened to Michael Barrymore, I bet. Seen him for ages. So, Mark, so if anyone wants to go and see you, which obviously, not if, but there will be people listening to this thing, I want to go and see Mark Steele, they should go to marksteeleinfo.com.
Yeah,
and
yes.
How long are you on tour for?
I've got about till about the end of March or first week in April, I think.
We'll
so I've
get
got
in
about
there now,
30 dates left. Shall I read some about? I'm never very good at this thing. Are you any good at this sort of thing? Please come and see my funny show.
You're around. They'll just look you up.
I thought you were going to start reading the dates out.
Don't read all the dates.
Newbury tonight, Swindon tomorrow, and then a load of other places.
Swindon, you'll be all right with the Magic Roundabout.
Exactly.
Material.
Yes.
I look forward to that. It's always good to see you.
With a Disney park in France, Swindon.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty
Not
good.
even twinned with a proper place.
Anyway, don't use up your stuff now. So look, it's always great to see you, Mark. Go and see Mark. As I say, he's a proper comic.
This is Frank Skinner
Absolute
Radio.
Neon trees, animal. Not necessarily in that order. Can I be absolutely honest? I'm not totally sure what's the title of the song and what's the title of the band. But, I mean, some people would have bluffed their way through it. Not Frank.
No, not Frank.
So, it's the final link we come to near the end. Perhaps we could end with the national anthem. That's what they used to do in the old days.
Wow, yeah. Well, you get it right, though, unlike some.
Oh, Lord. I didn't even see the Christina Aguilera national anthem.
Did you not see it? Oh, it was brilliant. Don't you hate the way they always do a soul voice whenever they do?
She always does that. Yeah. I thought, shut up.
We don't do that with God Save the Queen.
No.
I sing it like a chorister at St Paul's or something. I go very high.
Do you?
Yeah.
Give us an example.
God save our Queen.
Oh, God, you are like a chorister at St Paul.
How do you do it, Frank? How do you do your national anthem?
Well, I give it some.
Do you?
Football.
Actually, do you know what Emma told me? Our producer mentioned that when you were over in South Africa, you gave it some.
I told her to keep that under her hat. Yeah, well, I think I'm compensating for... I went to see... a lot of you will be able to identify with this. In the 70s, I went to Coventry Belgrave Theatre to see Danny LaRue. And I was with our Keith and some of his friends, and at the time they were quite anarchic. They were sort of a bit mods-ish.
Right.
And when they played the national anthem, they didn't sit down. They didn't stand up, rather.
Wow.
And people were standing. You could hear the absolute outrage. Yeah. Donald Duck was there. Did I not mention that? And anyway, I didn't know whether... My mum had stood up, obviously, but... I didn't know whether to be with the parents or whether to, be with my brother.
Where did you go, Frank?
So I sort of was halfway on the seat and half. I let the seat go up and I sat on the top of the seat. I was almost standing.
You went a bit Clegg, is what I call that.
Yeah, like I was sitting in one of those misery cord seats that they have in churches, Google it. And I think I've always felt guilty about the fact I didn't stand for the national anthem at Danny LaRue at the Belgrave Theatre in the 1970s. So ever since then I sing like there's no tomorrow.
Go for it. You don't do the round of applause at the end. Oh, I hate it at sporting events. Men go, God save the Queen. Why do they clap?
I don't know why they do that. They do that with a minute's silence. That's why you can have a very solemn minute's silence. At the end, everybody goes, come on! Come on! You think, oh, come on, we've just had a minute's silence. Have a bit of a link into... Give me a ramp. Give me an emotional ramp to take me from silence to going, come on! Anyway...
Ben Jones is here, Frank.
Ben Jones is next. So
I'm going to the BAFTAs, Frank, and so is he.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to the BAFTAs, okay. So what about it? You're going to the BAFTAs, I'm going to learn how to ride a bicycle. That's the difference between you and me. Next week, our guest is Jason Byrne. Did I say that as if I was reading it from a piece of paper? I wonder why that was. And you can listen to Not the Weekend podcast, which is available on Wednesday, which is completely different from this show. And aren't you glad to hear that? I say, aren't you glad to hear that? I've got to go to West Bromwich. I want to go to West Bromwich West Ham, but it's a crucial relegation game, and then I've got to go on the pitch half-time. We could be 3-0 down. It could be one of the most desolate, terrible places on earth, and I've got to talk about crisps at half-time. Wow. I deserve to be lynched. That's what I say.
Don't put ideas in their minds.
No, you're probably right. What happened in Egypt? Well, that's good, though, isn't it?
Do you think he said on telly, I deserve to be lynched?
Yeah, they're just messing about.
Yeah.
Oh, poor old Mubarak. Anyway, yeah, I bet there's a lot of students thinking, they've changed the whole country. We did nothing. Yeah. That's the trouble with just coming down for a short period. You got to camp out there.
They made Camilla duck in the car.
Yeah, that's it, though. It's the 3-day return is what's ruined revolution in this country. People that will get back after... Come down for a couple of hours. We can't get... Ben Jones is banging on the wall here.
Well, he always is.
I know. We should let him out. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I love you all. And next time I speak to you, I'll be able to ride a bike. Possibly.
You're listening to Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio. Working towards a mintier world with Treebor Soft Mints.